Hi, I'm Peter P.T. Townend. Not only am I the first world surfing champ, but I love this sport right here in Huntington Beach. We're going to celebrate the sport, its culture, lifestyle, and the amazing surfers that came before and after me that hit the waves around the world, including here in Surf City. We're going to share the PT collection with you on Surf Scene.
There's been a lot happening in the world of surfing. Of course, Scott Farnsworth winning the World Amateur Surfing Championships, a great thing for the United States. They won the World Championships in the teams competition. They beat the Aussies. Bit of an upset there. Everyone highly favoured Aussies with Gary Kong Elkerton, but couldn't overcome Scott. Dougie Silver from Solana Beach was in second. Richard Walcott from Newport Beach was in third. And the best Aussie was Simon Law. And he was in front of Kong Elkerton, who was highly favoured to win the contest, but couldn't quite do it. In the women's competition, really an upset. Janice Aragon, who we hope to have on the show coming up in the future, she was a 29-year-old mother, came out of nowhere, never been heard of before, and she won the Women's World Championship. So that was pretty incredible.
Well, how was that? That's from 40 years ago, from a show that I used to do called Wave Watch. And I promised in that show that I was going to have Janice Aragon. It never happened, but she's here tonight with Farnie. I got both of them. I got both of them here in the room. Welcome to the show tonight. This is PT with our surf scene in Huntington Beach at the Surf Museum. And it's unreal to get you guys together after all these years. And because Janice never made the show, we're going to start with her first. And this is a collage of all of their achievements that have happened since then. They've done a lot of things. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but we're going to start with Janice tonight because she wasn't on Wave Watch. So Janice, if you go back, it's nearly 40 years, okay? And you came out of nowhere. Nobody even knew who you were, and you qualified for the US team. And you didn't qualify through the N.S.S.A, which is interesting. You qualified through the W.S.A. And then I was the coach, which is kind of funny when you think about it, right? And here we are 40 years later. But what was your thought process going into that contest?
Well, actually getting into the trials, I was just surfing a local WSA contest in my backyard at Huntington Pier. And Joe Ewing, who was the comp director there, watched me surf, and he goes, I came out of the water, and he goes, you know what? I'm putting you in the trials. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, cool. So.
And where were those trials?
The trials were in Huntington, in Oceanside, and in Ventura, right? I believe. Those were the three. It was really cool how they did it back then, it was like there were 3 breaks that we ran the trials at, and luckily one was at my home break, which was which was pretty awesome. Yeah. So so that was really exciting, and then when I found out PT was going to be involved in it, it made me a little nervous, but it was like okay, like Well,
I really had no relationship versus Farnie, because Farnie was already on the N.S.S.A national team and had traveled with me and stuff.
Yeah, you know what, at the trials I saw you though, and you were coaching like, a lot of the N.S.S.A kids. So, I was basically, there like kind of on my own, and just, some, local little cheering squad with me. And, Joe Ewing was there, the comp director for WSA. He was there, cheering me on. But I was like, just like from, like coming out of nowhere and then getting into the U.S. team trials. I was like, wow, this is just an unreal experience. So,
So let's get to the contest. We didn't get much great surf during that contest, if you remember, but we were in the era of not 2 waves, but it was 3 to the beach, and that was a big part of it. And you were great at getting to the beach.
Yeah, well, that's all the practice I had, in Huntington, because I trained really hard, and it was weird because I just wanted to be the best surfer. So I would train in, you know, the obscure waves of Bolsa Chica
And this was all while you had a 2-year-old daughter.
Right.
Which is amazing if you think about it.
And when, you know, I found out that the actual world contest was going to be in beach break, I was like, wow, well, this is right up my alley. But, you know, then again, you're going up against the best amateur surfers in the world, so I didn't really know what to expect, you know, but, yeah.
So here we are, like 40 years later, and of course now you and Gayleen have been running the N.S.S.A. for, what, 30 years, something like that? Something like that. And I know you're really proud of, but one of the things I really wanted to ask you about today is you've seen a lot of great champions come through in your 30 years, you know, like, and before that, you guys were part of all of that process. But you must feel really good about the winningest surfer ever, Carissa Moore, winning a gold medal, right? And she came through the system under your watch.
Mm-hmm. That was really incredible. And I guess that's what we've worked, you know, all these years for, is to actually have that type of recognition at the Olympics. Watching her grow up, seeing when she first competed at the national championships when she was 10 years old, surfing against the boys. She was 10. And, you know, then all those years, you know, for the next 4, 5, 6 years, she came back, you know, to compete in the nationals. And she did everything she could do as an amateur, 11 titles. She still holds that record with 11 titles. But just to see what she, you know, accomplished moving forward from N.S.S.A. and then to the, you know, professional ranks and then getting the Olympic gold. Wow, that was just really special and really incredible.
Well, it's a great stamp on the N.S.S.A. resume too, from that point of view. But we're going to surprise you because we're going to go, and I found a bunch of footage of the TV show on the USA Network of you back in the day winning the contest, and then an interesting interview with you afterwards.
Kicking off now outside. Janice is on a great wave. It had a good face to it. It's still holding up. This is going to be a good scoring wave for Mrs. Aragon.
She went a long way on that face.
This is just what Janice needs too, a good long ride.
She's got to kick it all the way to the shore, and it looks like she may have an opportunity to do that. The water, Janice Aragon. And Janice, congratulations. The world champion title is now yours. Are you glad it's over?
Yes, very glad. If it was going to go to one more, it would have been really hard because I'm so tired, you know, and going through the competition for a week now. It's just been day after day of competition.
And 3 30-minute heats here today was a long time in the water as well.
It was, and it was really close. The other girl from the United States I went against is really good, so it was really, you know, tough competition, but I'm just glad I pulled it out.
Wow. That brings back some memories, right, Janice? So now it's my turn to tackle Farney.
If I want to see any footage,
we've got some excellent stuff that'll surprise you that I dug up. So
I'm willing to be surprised. I'm good with that.
The same for you, Farney. I mean, you grew up in Huntington Beach too, and went to Marina and got on the N.S.S.A. team early on. Like, I'm going to think back, I think it was the 82 team was the first one, right? 82?
I think that's right. 81, 82, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you were in the process and on the way to get selected, and you got selected. So for you, you know, you're on your home break. I mean, we weren't on the south side, which you loved, but we were on the north side, right? But for you, I want to ask a little bit different question, because the men's team of Australia was just like ridiculous. Like no one gave us a chance, you know, like you had Gary Elkington and Simon Law and Damien Hardman. I mean, the team was stacked. And most of our team, no one had even heard of, right? So did you feel intimidated by that?
You know what's ironic about the whole thing? Because I wasn't favored, right? I mean, there was multiple people that were favored before me. And probably Kong was probably the number one.
Yeah, and on our team, you would probably think that probably Gerlach and Snips were more favoured.
I mean, Snips was always like the guy that just was the consummate professional in terms of professional surfing. Like not to take anything away from his ability, but I'm saying his competitive skills were really good, right? So you knew you were up against something with him on that front.
And Gerlach's talent was ridiculous.
And Gerlach just was naturally talented and kind of a wild man and a bit crazy and in a good way, right? And so, yeah, but the ironic part about it, I think, was because I wasn't the favored guy, I think that was great for me. Because if there was one thing that I can say about myself as it pertains to competitive surfing is that I didn't always thrive in the pressure. I thrived when there wasn't any because I could relax and do what I do. And so my talents would show in that way. But if you put me under, I mean, this is what competition surfing is, right? It's a time limit. It's a wave limit.
20-minute rule.
You got interference calls. You've got all these things, right? All these parameters, which is totally against what natural surfing is all about. When you go surfing, typically it's when you have some free time and you're cruising with your friends and you're hanging out and you're having a good time and you're laughing. You get a good wave or a bad wave, whatever. It doesn't matter. But putting it in that thing was a little more challenging. And I think as a younger guy, starting young, my dad surfed from the time he was like in high school. So I started when I was a little kid, 4 or 5 years old. He's put me on a board. And so I really loved it and I took to it. So I got pretty good at a young age. And I think when I started competing, I was ahead of all the other kids at a young age. Right. So there still was no pressure. I was doing great and winning contests and stuff, but it wasn't like it was real pressure oriented. So coming into that event, I kind of still didn't have that pressure because nobody thought I would be the guy to win. So I think that's why I did well, and I'm happy that it worked out that way.
Going to that, because of the way that the event was run, you had 3 rounds, and going into the final round, you didn't make the final, so you had to count on what was going to happen in the finals result. And I remember I think you were sitting on the beach with Silver, if I remember. Right, and you were counting on what was going to go on in the water, and luckily for you guys, Snips was in the final. Yeah. In that last final, and he ended up winning that final, but didn't have enough points to overtake you. Correct. And we have a great image of when that announcement comes. How did you feel when all of a sudden?
Well, so I knew at that point. So what I thought was really cool, let me go back a little bit. What I thought was unbelievable about the event was that it was 4 separate contests rolled into one. So it was kind of like a professional world title. It wasn't just one event because somebody could easily have like won that really, I don't want to say shouldn't have won, but like.
Had one round where you excelled.
And I won one round, right? So the good news was nobody won more than one round. Right. So I felt great about that. I was like, well, if somebody had won 2 rounds but didn't have enough points to win the overall, and nobody else won more than 1 round, that would be kind of a bummer for the guy that won 2 rounds, right? Because you'd think maybe he should be the champ, right? So I was happy that myself, I think I won 1, Snips won 1, maybe did Doug win 1?
One of the Aussies.
One of the Aussies
won 1. I remember. I can't remember who it was.
And then three different Americans won the other 3. So I was happy that I was one of the guys that won at least 1 round, and then obviously did good enough in the other 3 to get the title. So that made me super happy. And as far as how I felt when it happened, because I knew that it was going to come down to who did what in the final event, because I didn't do well in the final event. I was sitting on the beach waiting, and we were kind of looking at people like, okay, he's going to have to get a 3rd, he's going to have to win, and so.
I hope he doesn't make that connection.
Rooting against guys that are my friends, I'm like, don't fall off, like, don't catch that wave, whatever. But
were the Aussies was one of them in the running or no?
Well, there was contention of the first 3 because if you remember, the men ended up whitewashing and winning all first 3. They were gold, silver, and bronze, right?
Doug and Richard.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was going to be an American that won that.
Yeah, right. but so just like I did with Janice, we've dug up some stuff on you too from that same TV show. We're going to go check it out. We're going to check it out now.
They really underestimated you?
I think they did, definitely. Like you said, basically unknown. None of us have really gotten the publicity and the coverage that Kong's got. And we had, our whole team was basically a bunch of underdogs. And we just all surfed good and we all came out. And after that first round, being 47 points ahead, I think it just blew their minds. They did come back a bit, but the 47 points kept them down a bit.
Wow, Farney, that was it better than Janice's? I'm not sure. But
I'll answer that question.
Hey, listen, it was great to have you on Surf Scene and reminisce about this. And usually how we close the show, we go out with some good footage. And because I found stuff on the old Wavewatch tapes. We've got Farney at Pipeline to end this show, and we'll be back with another show soon.
I mean, I know you love Pipeline, but... Yeah. Well, my backhand's gotten a lot better lately. I feel a lot more confident on my backhand. I think, just like Gary was saying, Sunset's not one of the places where I've personally excelled at a lot, but just in general, my backhand, I feel a lot better. And a lot of times, I'd rather surf a contest backhand than forehand. But of course, pipe's a whole different story. That's just fun. I mean, it's easy.
There's more of that great stuff to come, but I'm going surfing right now. There's waves out here.